Spiritual Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma Reading. Om Amukha Vairocana Maha Mudra Manipadma Jabala Pravataya Boom.
Please stand for the chanting of the refuges. Chisim Quimyane Zibong Samse Shemang Chale Sanju Ilche Chisim Quimyane Zibong Samse Shemang Chale Sanju Ilche
Sanghaya.
I go for refuge to the Buddha
I go for refuge to the Buddha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
So we return now to meditation for about 5 minutes, which will be followed by our Dharma reading and talk. So please be seated. Changing directions. Really. Please stretch your legs if you need to, and then turn in this direction. Bringing things together, the left hand nestled in the right, with the right thumb over the left fingers, called hapchang, bringing together. As we listen to Ma'um read to us from the Dhammapada, a Buddhist scripture.
They offend no one, yet they speak the truth. Their words are clear but never harsh. Whatever is not theirs, they refuse, good or bad, great or small. They want nothing from this world and nothing from the next. They are free.
My hands after Testing. they are free from being dragged around by the process of cause and effect and its result in the moment. Cold, bright, smoky. Welcome in from the 10 directions. And how did a bunch of characters like you end up in this place this morning? Welcome.
Good morning.
I've been thinking about that expression, that it's always, how did a bunch of characters like you end up in this place this morning or this afternoon or this evening, wherever we happen to be. And how to wrangle, in the situation, harmonize in the situation, how to be, have a sense of equanimity and almost a grin in the situation. Something just came to my mind. One way to work with that is to build up your store of gratitude. To build up your store of the things which, remembering the things which really delight you, so that when that energy is built, we have a lot more resilience to be that person who is not thrown around by whatever cause and effect brings to us. Okay, where are my notes? All right. For those of you who've been here before, can you tell me what is different about the altar this morning from usual? One thing, Michael?
The sweater on, I can't remember which Bodhisattva, but the sweater.
There's a sweater on Jijang Posal, and actually Jijang Posal is here.
Yeah.
What else?
So Mike brought us some salted roasted nuts on the altar.
Yes.
There's a pine cone that smells like cinnamon.
Yes.
There's a little tree with an ornament on it.
Yeah. What color's the ornament?
Blue.
Yeah. So we're in a little different season. And it's this time of year that we think of our Bodhisattva tradition. And Bodhisattvas, we have many Bodhisattvas. They are embodiments of qualities that are within all of us. And at this time of year, we usually look to this Bodhisattva, and I'll just share a little bit about them in a moment. The Bodhisattva is said to be the archetype of the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, which we're in, the archetype person who, before awakening themselves, helps as much as possible to help for others to awaken, to find a sense of ease in the world. Yeah. And if you look at this particular Bodhisattva, there's a staff, which Jijang Posel, or in Japanese called Jizo, always carries. And it has 6 rings on it. Is Bopi here? Did I see Bopi here? One of our Dharma guardians made that staff many, many years ago. And the 6 rings on the staff stand for the 6 paramitas. And it's said that that Bodhisattva goes around with the staff, banging it down so that the rings will jingle, and the sound of the 6 paramitas, the essence of the 6 paramitas, will go out in the 10 directions to be of assistance. So here's a beautiful version of the 6 paramitas, which you'll find in our moon journeying through clouds, a little different version. Bring your hands into Hapchang of sincere heart and compose yourself for deep listening. Practicing the 6 perfections. 1, generosity. Giving of oneself with open-hearted attentiveness. 2, morality. Understanding and actualizing the deep meaning of the precepts, moral guidelines. 3, patience. Steadfast perseverance and cheerful willingness no matter what the circumstances. 4, enthusiasm. Practicing with vigor, diligence, and assiduity. 5, meditation with one-pointed attentiveness, opening to the vastness of being. 6, wisdom, lucid insight into the fundamental nature of this great matter. And then a little commentary. Life is short, mystery profound. Vow to awaken. Just a little go round. What word or phrase or one, if you can remember it, resonated with you?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
Compassion.
Say it again, please.
Compassion.
Compassion.
Kindness.
Is that what you said? Sorry, I'm really deaf. So, but not so much that if you speak up, I can hear you. Anyone else? What resonated with you?
Generosity.
Generosity.
Generosity. Michael?
Generosity.
Generosity. Ursula? Compassion.
There is something about being the same no matter what the circumstance.
Uh-huh.
No matter what the circumstance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Something about the circumstances. Cheerful willingness, no matter what the circumstances. Yeah. Anyone else? How about this?
Patience.
Patience? Uh-huh. How about you, Arina?
Patience.
Patience. Yeah, your one?
Compassion.
Compassion.
Our microphone is tilted towards this one, and so it's making feedback.
Oh.
Julie,
Mm-hmm.
you might be able to adjust
Technical class.
It's. I can just turn it off.
So, this is what the Bodhisattva, Jiso Bodhisattva or Jijong Bodhisattva goes around with these spreading of these qualities, not only by the ringing of the staff, but by words, by actions, by presence. Yeah. Okay. So now I have 2 stories, one old and one new. It's about this. This old one is the one that I usually tell to the whole Sangha when the kids are here too. Each year at this time when the trees are bare. And so that's why we put that little bare tree up there. You know, it's the passing of the seasons. So it was at this time of year in some Asian country where an old couple who were farmers, were very deeply troubled because winter was upon them and they had no stores in their larder. They had no food because there had been drought and their crops had really failed. And they had really a lot of sturdiness in them. So they tried to see what they could do with their situation. Because all supplies were short, there was no money, and they had no help, just the two of them, and they were old. So they looked around their little property, and there had been a lot of straw that had been piled up from one of the fields. And so the woman said, "We can make hats and take to the market and try to sell them." So they spent quite a time. You can imagine weaving straw. This is kind of a hat you've probably seen with the point comes down to be round. And just before market day, they had made 3 of them. And so with hope in their hearts and minds, they went out. It's very cold and overcast, but still went out down their lane, turning to the main street, which eventually led to the village, the main road, where the market was. And there were other people there selling things. It was a hard time for everyone. And they put down their hats, 1, 2, 3, and sat down. And it was cold to sit there. And people came and people went, but no one bought their hats. So at the end of the day, when the market closed, it began to snow as they walked back to their farm, carrying the hats. And it so happened that where the main road ended and then came into the road that went to their farm, there were 3 Jiso or Jijong Posel figures, just like this. It was common, it is common around Asia still, for there to be at the roadside, by the wayside, Jijong Posel figures, Jiso pose. And people go to them because this Jiso Bodhisattva is known for going almost to hell if that's necessary, to help people through these 6 paramitas. And especially Jijong Posel, Jizo, is a great aid to women and children. So in this country, many women who have lost their children, who have had abortions, who have had miscarriages, the Buddhists in the country have set up practices around Jijong Posel to have special ceremonies with Jijong Posel and chanting of Jijong Posel to ease the way of the child that died and of the mother who is still alive. It's a very, very deeply troubling, almost for a person's whole life. And so that's why it is common to see these statues many, many places, and people making offerings or just kneeling down, doing some praying. It's a way that maybe they feel they can get some help and the spirit of Jijong Posel. So the old couple went down the main road and at the turn saw those 3 Jijong Posels. Wouldn't that be nice? We should put some around here more. And they just thought, and with just spontaneously put a hat on each one of them. They hadn't sold them, but there was a kind of appreciation in some way, a kind of hope in some way. They just put the hats on. And they went in to their house and the snow was gaining. And that evening they boiled some water. They had some water nearby. And they had dried wild edible plants and plants that could be used for tea. So they together enjoyed a simple cup of brewed tea together by the light of their fire. It's actually a very rich experience, just that. And a little sadly, because they did not know what was going to happen to them, they went to sleep. And in the morning, when they awoke, it was hard not to see that a lot of snow had come. You know how the snow kind of drifts up the window sometimes. And they just opened the door, their main door, to see if, just to see how much, because you could tell by, 1 foot, 2 feet, 4 inches. And there were some sacks at the door, which had not been there before. And they looked in, and there were some misshapen potatoes, some onions, a kind of misshapen daikon turnip, and a little garlic in this old sack, left at their door like a gift. And they looked at each other. Where could this come from? Everybody knew everybody's plight. They looked in the snow, and there were footsteps. So they followed them, got their shoes, their boots, their warm clothes, because they didn't have much else to do, just curious and grateful. And where did those footsteps go to but those 3 Jizang Posel statues at the end of the road? At least as far as they can tell. It's a little magic, eh?
Mm-hmm.
There's something really special about the situation and the story. And I'm not going to say, well, it's about this and this and this. I think you have to kind of think about it yourself. What could this be? Okay? That's the old story. Now the new story. And I have been alluding a little bit to this story for a while with our temple residents, who I think are getting sick of me talking. But anyway, here we go again, because this is, and some of you may know this is about the Ted Lasso TV program. I am not a TV watcher. I haven't really been for decades, maybe 40 or 50 years. As long as I've been at the temple, the only the television we ever had was really what my kids sneaked from the yard sale and kept way upstairs. And I would where are those kids? And I'd go upstairs and find them around this little television. I'm a sort of a novice when it comes to films and TV, all of that stuff. So practically I get over delighted with absolutely everything that I do see, 1 film a year. And at Thanksgiving, my younger daughter and her husband said, Mom, we think you might like this Ted Lasso TV series. I said, okay. I had actually heard that it was funny, and I thought, well, I'm on vacation. Let me see what happens. So I'll give you, who knows this story? Anybody ever heard of Ted Lasso? Yeah. Yeah. No, I saw you just nodding, and I don't know. We'll see if we appreciated it in the same way. Okay, this is a little bit what it's like. It is that there's a British soccer team that's owned by a husband and wife, and they get divorced, and the wife is very bitter about it. She gets the soccer team, and it happened to be a very, very, the husband really loved that soccer team and managing it. He gets out, and so he doesn't have the connection with it anymore. And she's so bitter about the divorce that she decides that she wants to wreck the soccer team. And so that'll teach him. And so she hires a coach who's been a kind of minor football coach in the US to go and coach a soccer team, which he knows nothing about. He doesn't know anything about soccer. And it's her plan that she'll have a really bad coach and it will be a real failure. So this guy, Ted Lasso, is sort of, what's it called when you don't have a chance in the first place?
Hopeless.
It's a kind of hopeless situation for him to try to get the soccer team together. But what the guy does and has a real strength on, and it's a real innocent strength, because it feels like he's bumbling along all the time. And you know what people call him? The fans start to call him, the players start to call him Wanger, which means impotent in the sort of crudest way. Wanger. And so everybody's always chanting, Wanger, Wanger, impotent, impotent. You do not know what you're doing. You don't have any strength here. And he is somehow able to smile at that in the circumstances and go on to be absolutely wonderful every episode, so you can't wait to the next one, in the crazy and laughable way almost, with the people on the team. And all the players and the assistants and the administration are all a bunch of characters, just like we are all a bunch of characters. And the acting is really terrific, as it's always terrific, when we're all together with people. And so just one by one and in strange circumstances, he gets a team that was pretty much ready to fail to come together as people. And the last issue that I saw is in the second season, and it's Christmas. Did you see that one? It's a great Christmas story. Soon we will be seeing it along with A Christmas Carol, maybe. Because somehow they've gone through so much of losing. They haven't won any games. They get demoted to another league because they've done so poorly. But they're not on a personal level. It's different. So then one of the administrative guys invites, and the soccer players are from all over the world, so it's a real diversity of people. He invites the players who don't have a place to go for Christmas to come to his house. And he said he usually does that every year, and he gets a couple of people, and that's about it. But this year, all of the players come with a dish from their country for Christmas. And then you see a big long table, sometimes like what we have at our breakfast and some of our meals, of characters, all just kind of enjoying. And then they hear this, Ted Lasso is not there, nor the woman who's headed the soccer team, because she called up Ted and said, "Do you want to spend some time?" And so they went around delivering. She had the idea to deliver gifts to kids who are really in poor circumstances. So the two of them did that all day, while the administrator and his wife were preparing a little meal because they weren't expecting too many people. And then as they're eating, they hear music outside, and there's Ted Lasso and the boss lady and a couple of musicians, and they're playing Christmas carols. So they all go out, these orphans, these guys who hated each other almost, a whole different spirit. Just because this one guy, tried his best in every situation. In fact, he asked the guy who was the water boy for the team to help him coach the team, because the water boy seemed to know a lot more about soccer than he did, you know? And it turned out that everybody kind of appreciated that here was this guy who was just the water boy for the team. When he would say something to the players, they would really be appreciative. And so Ted Lasso was able to do a lot of things like that. And what a Christmas party. You know, all of these characters, just like our characters in our situations where we have trouble with, somehow one person, by just being a little kind of decent and kind of innocently, kind of mostly mistaken in lots of situations, helped to transform them all. I really like the idea of, we don't have to be some great star. In fact, we hardly need to know anything about anything, except to be working on our own stuff and to be able to listen deeply and speak kindly and to throw ourselves in at the sink to wash the dishes, if nothing else, kind of thing. A lot of times when I get together with my family and I get together in group situations, you might not think it, but I think I'm essentially an introvert. So I'll just go wash dishes, because there's always somebody needed, and lots of people don't care to do that. And so to create a kind of situation as we come to this holiday season, where it doesn't so matter about the meal, it just matters about our relationships and our presence and our being kind of not the controlling one or the tight butt one, but just learning to hang out. In our Buddhist tradition, it's called right effort. Right effort. And I'm going to recommend another book, like I did last week. This one is called The Four Noble Truths by Ajahn Sumnido. And I think it's the best book about the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path. Ajahn Sumnido has a way, this is the basic foundation of the Buddhist teachings. His first sermon was the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. So it's a foundation for all of our work and all of our practice, these Four Noble Truths. And I'm going to just take this time to read to you about right effort, because I think he says it better than I do. Most people say things better than I do. Okay, so stretch your legs or do whatever you need so that you can hang in. Things as they are. With right effort, there can be a cool kind of acceptance of a situation rather than the panic that comes from thinking that it's up to me to set everybody straight, make everything right, and solve everybody's problems. Cool kind of acceptance. Here are the characters again. Here we are. We do the best we can, but we also realize that it's not up to us to do everything and make everything right. At one time when I was at Wat Pa Pong with Ajahn Chah, I could see a lot of things going wrong with the monastery. So I went up to him and I said, Ajahn Chah, these things are going wrong. You've got to do something about it. He looked at me and said, oh, you suffer a lot, Sumnido. You suffer a lot. It'll change. I thought, he doesn't care. This is the monastery that he's devoted his life to, and he's just letting it go down the drain. But he was right. After a while, it began to change, and though just bearing with it, people began to see what they were doing. Sometimes we have to let things go down the drain in order for people to see and to experience that. Then we can learn how not to go down the drain. Do you see what I mean? Sometimes situations in our life are just this way. There's nothing one can do, so we allow them to be that way. Even if they get worse, we allow them to get worse. But it's not a fantastic or negative thing we're doing, it's a kind of patience. Being willing to bear with something, allowing it to change naturally, rather than egotistically trying to prop everything up and cleaning it all up out of our aversion and distaste for a mess. Then, when people push our buttons, we're not always offended, hurt, or upset by the things that happen, or shattered and destroyed by the things that people say or do. One person I know tends to exaggerate everything. If something goes wrong today, she'll say, I'm utterly and absolutely shattered, when all that has happened is that some little problem occurred. However, her mind exaggerates it to such an extent that a very small thing can absolutely destroy her for the day. When we see this, we should realize that there is a great imbalance because little things should not totally shatter anyone. I realized that I could be easily offended, so I took a vow not to be offended. That's interesting, eh? We always think, oh, I vow, all beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Here's another vow. I vow not to be offended. Yeah. I had noticed how easy it was for me to be offended by little things, whether intentional or unintentional. We can see how easy it is to feel hurt, wounded, offended, upset, or worried. How something in us is always trying to be nice, but always feels a little offended by this or a little hurt by that. With reflection, you can see that the world is like this. It's a sensitive place. It's not always going to soothe you and make you feel happy, secure, and positive. Life is full of things that can offend, hurt, wound, or shatter. This is life. It is this way. If somebody speaks in a cross tone of voice, you're going to feel it. But when the mind can go on and be offended, oh, it really hurt when she said that to me, you know that was not a very nice tone of voice. I felt quite wounded. I've never done anything to hurt her. The proliferating mind goes on like that, doesn't it? We make up a story. We really do. Me too. Stories. You have been shattered, wounded, or offended, but then if you contemplate, you realize it's just sensitivity. When you contemplate this way, it's not that you are trying not to feel. When somebody talks to you in an unkind tone of voice, it's not that you don't feel it at all. We're not trying to be insensitive. Rather, we're trying not to give it the wrong interpretation, not to take it on a personal level. Usually what people say is about them, not about you. Yeah. Rather, we are trying not to give it the wrong interpretation, but not to take it on a personal level. Having balanced emotions mean that people can say things that are offensive and you can take it. Having balanced emotions means that people can say things that are offensive and you can take it. You have the balance and emotional strength not to be offended, wounded, or shattered by what happens in life. This goes on in a beautiful way more and more, as you can see, because I saw some of you, He has a real ability to straight talk. And all of us need straight talk sometimes to help us get a little bit more balanced. So, yeah, let's see what time it is. Hello, dear people, out in the 10 directions. I almost forgot about you in the midst of these characters here. I hope all is well. I wonder, I have in my notes responses, but we have only about 3 or 4 minutes. I'll just take a chance. Can anyone stay, instead of for 3 or 4 minutes till the end, can you stay 10 minutes so we can hear a little bit from each other? Yeah, is that okay? Can you, Ursula? Yeah. Fad? Yeah. New people? Are you guys new people? No. You can. All right, then let's just take attendance. Okay, Mom? Oh, good. We're getting, what's it called? Consensus here. All right, so when you hear, let's see, what's the question, your response? How does this touch you, this right effort business that we're talking about today? Making, in a hard situation, no, I guess here's what I'll say. What's your hard situation that you're going to try to apply some of these principles in? I think that's it. What's your hard situation? And you, in a nutshell, can you think of it? Because by talking about our hard situation, we see everybody's part of this. So the group even that you're with, every person has a hard situation. Usually as a result of habitual patterns that have come up over their life. So what's your hard situation? In just a little bit, because you need to think about it to be able to start working in it. Like Ted Lasso, he got a job. He's in a really hard situation. He was called impotent, yet somehow he had to work. Do the thing.
I'll say something.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to, would you take this again? Okay, we're going to have a chance to hear what's your heart situation from about 5 or 6 people to respect the time. And I'll ask each of you 5 to be as to the marrow as possible with this.
I think I have at least this one situation is something that's more universal that I think a lot of people can relate to, possibly, which is divorce. When you go through something like this, something I'm going through now, I'm about to go and have talks. Often that happens, just generalizing. Often the 2 people that are divorcing each other have to face each other and try to be very polite and discuss how the future will be between them and what they will divide and yada yada, all these details. But you try to keep it as emotionless as possible, yet it's a situation where you already know it's really easy to be offended because this person has a lot of emotional power over you. So it's a situation where I want to go towards it, I want it to be through and over, and so I'm excited to do it actually, to sort of get it to be done. But at the same time, I'm getting myself ready to not be offended by whatever happens during that process, because it doesn't matter what anybody says in the room. It's just something that has to be done, and things will be said, and it'll be over. So.
You will.
My difficult situation is that I've gotten myself into what I can't do. I can't finish this task, I can't finish that task, everything like that. And my wife Robin points out often that I need to enjoy life and to go from a position of saying, well, I can't do this, can't do that. I need to find some things which are really interesting to me and make me happy to do at the end of the day. And it's not climbing, it's not dancing, but I'm trying to find those settings which are going to give me happiness, so I can wake up happy and go to bed happy sometimes.
In that regard, too, of happiness, it's important to store up your store of happiness. So if you keep working on the unhappiness part, then that's what you're going to get. So if you even wake up and start something that you're grateful for, that you're happy about, yes, you begin to overpower the unhappiness streak. Yeah. Please go on. Anyone else have their hard situation?
So the book talks of harsh things being said and things being said and not taking offense. And my hard situation is this overwhelming anxiety all the time, and the thoughts that contribute to it is, oh, I did something wrong. Oh, they don't, projecting that they're thinking harsh things. So that's what I deal with. And then I also really want to say that I think this is a good teaching. And then the last few sentences you were saying is accepting what is being said, something like this. And I think of the story that I've heard many times with the Buddha, where someone was berating him and he tells a story. It's a long story, but the meaning is that somebody offers you this gift of harsh words or meanness, and you don't accept the gift. What can they do if you don't accept the gift? That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Ursula. That's a really good story to remember. No, I do not accept you. This pot. Please really speak up. Even the microphone sometimes doesn't help me.
Does this sound good?
Yeah.
Louder? Okay. I think what resonated with me is the topic of patience that was brought up in the book, and kind of the idea of knowing when to let go so that they can kind of go on their natural course and fix itself in a way. As a nursing student in the University of Michigan, you're kind of expected to be like leaders and best, to make changes, kind of fix what some of the flaws of healthcare. And I know that going into the hospital very soon for my next semester, it would be very difficult for me to not pick out those flaws and always have the mindset of like, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to make this better. Because at the end of the day, you're dealing with actual people, and people might get harmed or might die from mistakes or carelessness that's made in the system. And I think it's just tough as a student nurse to have to go in there and I guess understand more about where I should know to be patient and to wait and to learn, and when I should, put my foot down and actually say something about
Did you have one, Michael? Anyone else? Last.
I am thinking of a situation that has been going on for a while now. There was a very difficult situation involving a community space and a venue and a place where people lived that had been around for decades and meant a lot to a lot of people. And I jumped in to try to save that space and keep it going and navigate all of those relationships that have been around for decades. And several of us got together and organized and, moved all the stuff out and organized as an organization to negotiate with the landlords. And then the pandemic happened, and then everybody's lives became so much more difficult. And it's just become, it was already kind of an intractable situation to begin with. And we tried to find a solution, and there hasn't really been a solution. And the relationships have become more strained now. And I took on a huge amount of guilt about that, about me not being able to find the perfect solution and negotiate with these 90-year-old landlords who live out of state to get them to let us live illegally in this love space. And I felt really bad about it. And I realized that I was it was a really ego-driven kind of a pain. Because sometimes we really care, and hundreds of people really care, and there's nothing that you can do about it. You just have to recognize when you have been putting forth right effort, and recognize when you're beginning to let your ego get involved in the situation. And sometimes it takes a long time to realize that, and I hope that next time it doesn't.
All right, let's end with the 6 paramitas again. So please repeat after me. Number 1, generosity.
Generosity.
Giving of oneself with open-hearted attentiveness.
Giving of oneself with open-hearted attentiveness.
2, morality.
Morality.
Understanding and actualizing the deep meaning of the precepts.
Understanding and actualizing the deep meaning of the precepts.
3, patience.
Patience.
Steadfast perseverance.
Steadfast perseverance.
And cheerful willingness.
And cheerful willingness.
No matter what the circumstances.
No matter what the circumstances.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
Practicing with vigor, diligence, and assiduity.
Practicing with vigor, diligence, and assiduity.
Meditation.
Meditation.
With one-pointed attentiveness.
With one-pointed attentiveness.
Opening to the vastness of being.
Opening to the vastness of being.
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Lucid insight.
Lucid insight.
Into the fundamental nature of this great matter.
Into the fundamental nature of this great matter.
Life is short.
Life is short.
Mystery profound.
Mystery profound.
Vow to awaken.
Vow to awaken.
Please stand. We'll do 3 vows. We've got announcements.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Audrey.
Just do it. Okay, our 3 vows, then we'll have some announcements and be on our way. This is Jagwa. She's one of our drum teachers, newest one.
Welcome, everyone, especially if you are, can you hear me better?
Yep.
Especially if you are new, coming for the first time, a special welcome to you. We have public services every Sunday at 10 a.m. And our family service will resume, so there was one today, and the next one will be January 9th. We also have a winter retreat coming up. This will be held virtually on Zoom, December 26th through 31st. If you're interested in that, please let one of us know, and there's a sign-up sheet for that. And we also offer an introductory meditation course. There is 2 versions of this course. One is a 5-week session that meets on Thursday evenings. The next one will begin January 13th. And then there's an overnight session where you meet on a Friday evening through a Saturday at noon, and that compresses all the material into those an evening and a morning. And the next one of those is January 21st and 22nd. We have regular study groups that meet. So our Refuge Recovery 12-step group meets every Sunday at noon in the basement in the old library of this building. And then the next study group that will be meeting will be in the spring, studying the Buddhist precepts in preparation to formally become Buddhist, taking the precepts and receiving a Dharma name. We have a couple of year-end services that are very special. Our New Year's Eve service, which will have a virtual component. Will it have in-person component too?
Not here.
Okay, so New Year's Eve service will be online only this year. That is on New Year's Eve at 8 p.m. And then there's a New Year's Day service January 1st, the next morning. I think that is it. The most important announcement for today, however, is that we have baked beautiful sugar cookies, one in the shape of a lotus, one in the shape of a meditating Buddha. There are vegan, gluten-free cookies and cookies that have dairy. So we'll be handing those out. If you would like to take a little plastic bag of cookies with you, please join us in the lobby. There are sign-up sheets for all of the activities that I mentioned. And if you would like to leave a financial contribution to the work of the temple, there's also a fishbowl. There's a QR code you can scan if you prefer to make a donation on PayPal. And I think that's it. Thanks for being here.
So then we'll just come to the center and file out, greet each other, and